Okay, I guess I'm live. So I wanted to get this off my chest. Plus, I want to test out my new live streaming capabilities. Shout out to Dale for putting me on the StreamYard. But I wanted to get this out because it's a conversation I've been seeing in a lot of different groups. And here's the thing: if you're not ready to, if the words me, if me focusing on Black folks, talking about Black, saying the word Black shocks or offends you, this may not be the stream for you, but I do need to talk about it in this specific context. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. I interact with a lot of people. I love hearing other people's perspective on things. I love the interaction. I love debating with people about things that matter. I don't like debating with people about things that don't really matter. It depends. I'll debate about comic books, but there are other elements like relitigating somebody's humanity is something I'm not really cool with debating. So I'm saying all that to say this. I've come into contact with a lot of people who talk about the concept of leadership. And specifically, when it comes to brothers, we talk about the concept of Black men retaking the roles of leadership throughout the community and the family and all this other stuff. I think we need to bust one leadership myth here. And I talk to you as somebody who's actually been in leadership positions, who's held leadership positions, and who's actively walked away from leadership positions because I wasn't in the right mind to be leading anybody. I had other stuff going on in my world that I needed to focus on. And the reason why I say it like that is because I think we need to establish something here for a lot of people. Leadership is service. I'm going to say it again. Leadership is a service. You are providing a service to the people that trust you to be put in charge. And a lot of people who want leadership roles really don't want leadership roles. They just want to be in charge of somebody or something. They can't see past their own self-interest to lead anybody to anything. They're not really to give of themselves to lead somebody to better outcomes for their life or their world or their family or whatever. And so when we hear this concept of leadership bandied about, a lot of people get into this. They just want to be in charge of something. And that is not the kind of leadership that that benefits people. Just the act of simply being in charge means that you're looking out for your own power. It's a power grab. And so in these conversations I have with people, they say, brothers need to take ownership and take control of the family. It's like, is it about control or is it about actively taking on the mantle of being a leader who sacrifices their wants and needs for the collective, for the bigger group, for the people that are being led? Are they willing to figure out what their limits are as a leader and delegate powers and responsibilities based on what those limits are? Are they willing to trust the people that are following them from A to B to do what they're asked to do without, and if it collides with what the leader's perspective is the leader willing to adjust what their perspective is to suit the new realities that they're facing? So I got to put that out there. Leadership is service. And you should distrust people that want just naked power. They just want power over somebody. They just want control over somebody. And it's not because they have a grander vision of where things can go. They're not willing to collaborate. They're not willing to work with anybody. It's just a power grab. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be in charge. But we sell it as leadership, and those two things aren't really the same. Leadership is service. It takes discipline. It takes, you have to have some kind of internal analysis going on. Nobody questions themselves more than a person who's actively participating in the service of leadership. I've been in that seat before. It's not a fun seat. When you screw up something and it affects people that are looking to you, you have to be willing to take the ownership of that. And if you're not willing to take ownership of your outcomes, whether you had something to do with those outcomes directly or not, you're not ready for that mantle of leadership. When I lost my mom and I finally had reached my dream career and had my own staff and had people reporting to me and all this other stuff. And I had really reached what my dream was in my career. And then I lost my mom suddenly. It shifted my entire focus. I wasn't in a position to lead anybody because I couldn't get out of thinking about myself. Nor should I have been. I was still grieving. And so I had to make the decision to walk away from something I had worked for, almost 20 years, because I wasn't in a position to provide the service to the people that needed me. And it was kind of an interconnected web because I had those people relying on me and they were providing care to other people. So it was a multi-tiered kind of thing. I had to actively make that decision to walk away from leadership. If your leadership doesn't do any kind of self-analysis, if they never take ownership of the outcomes, if they're always looking to pass the buck to somebody else, if they aren't willing to give up themselves, you're not dealing with the leader, you're dealing with somebody who's in charge. So, if you want to be a leader, you have to develop your ability to give without expecting receipt. Can't expect those receipts to come back to you. You give freely without expectation. Give of your time, you give of your energy. You give of you give an ear when somebody needs an ear to listen to them. You give guidance when somebody needs guidance. You give support emotionally. You understand when somebody has kind of reached their point and you're able to step in and maybe carry the burden for them a little bit. You're able to actively tell somebody who's passionate about what they're doing, hey, you need to take a step back and let's find somebody else to shoulder this burden. That's leadership. When I had my staff, the way I always told my staff, and the ones that have worked for me can tell you this, I would sit down and say, my legacy is really built on whether my staff are people that other people want to hire away from me. I don't want to keep you to myself. If I can get you better opportunities and some other leader trusts you to take over for them, I want them to pursue you, because to me, that's what my legacy in this position is. I want to train hireable people. I want to train people that other people want to hire. And so that was my perspective on developing talent. And a lot of times the pitfall that people who are so obsessed, and specifically when it comes to roles of leadership, if they're so obsessed with maintaining the power, what they'll do is if they see somebody coming up, a usurper, if you will, what they'll do is they'll undermine that person. They'll cut their legs out from under them. They'll sabotage them. They'll put them in bad positions. I've actually had that happen to me. And it was not a fulfilling experience. I'm putting that very mildly, but that's one of the ways you can tell if somebody's really about leading or if they're just setting you up to take a fall, if they see you as future competition. I've never competed, in the positions I've had, I've never really competed with my staff about anything. My job was to make sure that we were there to do our job and that my staff were developing the way they need to so that they can kind of go off and do their own thing in their careers. So I just had to get that out into the universe. I see a couple of people have tuned in. Thanks for listening to this rant, but I do have to put that out there because I feel like that is something that is sorely missing when we talk about the concept of leadership. Leadership is not just being in charge. And I know, we have a lot of might makes right kind of people, and they think that wielding the power is enough in and of itself, but that's not exactly leadership. And we literally, depending on what your political affiliations are, I'm about to piss you off. We just came out of 4 years of that. 4 years of the might makes right kind of leadership where nobody takes any accountability for anything that gets screwed up. Or anybody that gets hurt. Following this leader. There was no ownership. There was no empowerment. It was all a bunch of subterfuge and backstabbing and all kinds of other crap that goes along with toxic kind of management styles. I've seen it up close and personal. I can identify it and I'll call it out. But specifically when we're talking about Black folks, the first part about leadership is you really do have to have some level of humility, and you have to be able to see what the limits of your abilities are and be willing to either delegate that role of it or be a student and learn where your weaknesses are so you can improve. But at the end of the day, if you're not of service to the people that are falling under your leadership, then you ain't a leader. If you're only interested in you and how it benefits you, you're not a leader. You're somebody who's in charge. And there are plenty of places for people to be in charge, but don't mistake that and call yourself a leader, because you're not. Leadership is service. You're looking out for other people. So that's all I got. Testing out the new setup. Let me know what you guys think. I'll holler at you guys later. Probably be doing a couple of more of these. Like I said, shout out to Dale for putting me onto the Streamlabs. This thing is amazing. So anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.